Yes, guys, welcome to the Fantasy Football Fix Game Week 17 live stream. My name is FPL Nacho, and I am delighted to be back doing these live streams. It feels like it's been such a long time, almost like it was last season. We were having these discussions, but of course, the World Cup is now over. What an unbelievable World Cup that was, in particular, the final. England fans out there, let me know in the comments how you felt it went. Obviously, a little bit disappointing there, but although the World Cup is over, we can get excited now for FPL, which is why we are all here, of course. So, first and foremost, guys, if you are new around here, make sure you do hit that subscribe button. And it would be fantastic if you would drop a like on the live stream as well, just to show the love for the stream. And also, guys, if you are getting involved, make sure you do jump in on the chat. Let me know who is watching along. It'd be excellent to see some regular faces back, and of course, some new faces along the way as well. I can see Logan in the chat already. Merry Christmas. Hope you're doing well. Of course, what is it now? 3 days until Christmas. So we need to enjoy this little bit of time we have, because it's going to be manic when we get to the Christmas time, trying to plan our teams. Bit of a pro tip. Do not do your Game Week 17 draft hungover on Boxing Day. I've done it before. Do not recommend it at all. So try and get your team locked in on Christmas Day so you don't have to panic, or even Christmas Eve if you are in a good position as well. Calm, hope you're doing well, ever present as always. Excellent to see you in the chat. Ria, hi Nacho, I need your advice. Will Havertz be a good option? Now, of course, I am a Chelsea fan, which is a little bit disappointing so far this season, but I should have some more information for you in regards to him. So, look, Havertz, such a frustrating asset, first and foremost. We all know that of Havertz. Played in a behind-doors game against Brentford, picked up a hat-trick. Not going to read anything into that whatsoever. However, injury to Broja is meaning that we're only restricted to two forwards now, both Aubameyang and Havertz. With Havertz and his price point, I believe he is 7.5 million, but don't quote me on that. I'm just going to check now. 7.7 million. I think it's very difficult to justify Havertz right now because he falls in that really awkward price bracket. We can go for the cheap options like Martial and Mitrovic at 6.7, 6.8. And at 7.7, I don't really see a team structure where you can afford to have that place and also someone like Haaland and maybe even somebody like a Darwin as well. Let me know what your current front two alongside Havertz would be. I'm not really trusting the Chelsea attack right now. I need to see something in these opening games before investing in any of those attacking players. So, as always, guys, make sure you are putting the questions in the comment section. I'll be answering them throughout this live stream, of course. But just to touch on what we're going to cover in today, going to reveal my current Game Week 17 draft. It's worth mentioning, of course, like a lot of people, I've been umming and ahhing about certain players, but I'm going to confirm to you exactly the ones that are locked into my team and the deliberations that I'm having right now with my team, and of course the budget that I have available to me, because of course some people out there can afford much better teams than others, depending on the team value and squad accumulation that you've had over this season so far. Going to be touching on the projected points for players. We're going to be doing a premium player comparison. Spoiler alert, Salah versus Kevin De Bruyne is going to be in that, but I think it's rightly so. And then, of course, we're going to be just looking at a few differentials out there that I think are worthwhile discussing. So again, guys, if you can hit that like button, that would be fantastic. And before we get into this, guys, I just want to quickly shout this out as well, because it is pretty awesome what we're doing at Fantasy Football Fix. Link is in the bio. We're giving away Premium Plus free trial from now until the Game Week 21 deadline, which is the 21st of January. So you can, for free trial, get full access to the Fantasy Football Fix website, which includes things like the Elite 11 team reveal, which is basically just all of the best managers in the world. You get to see their team before the deadline, and basically any changes they make live, you will get told about it, which is unbelievable. Captain reveal, you can see before the deadline how the captaincy is looking based on our projections, and we are, we're doing well so far this season. Use the assistant manager, and you can also use the projected points alongside so many other things. The stats sandbox, which you can look at all the individual stats. I use it all the time. And of course, mini leagues. We have some unbelievable tools on the Fantasy Football Fix where you can basically look at your rivals in your mini league, their exact teams, your team against that team, and exactly where they are kind of got that differences against you. Honestly, you need to check it out for yourself. Link is in the bio to get hands on your free trial between now and the Game Week 1 deadline. I just want to quickly cover a few terms and conditions. Obviously, cancel before the Game Week 21 deadline and you won't be charged after that point. If you don't cancel it before then, you will then incur a charge after the Game Week 21 deadline. And it's only available to those that haven't previously taken a free trial with Fantasy Football Fix. That's really important. If you have claimed a free trial in the past, then you will be charged for the membership that you select. So that's a big one there. Just make sure you do note that. But honestly, guys, if you haven't claimed a free trial with Fantasy Football Fix in the past, it's a no-brainer to jump in on this free trial between now and the Game Week 21 deadline. If you're at a rank that you're not happy with, this could be the slight kind of pep that you needed just to get yourself through the next few weeks and really propel yourself through the ranks and mini leagues. Right, enough of me discussing how awesome that is. Let's get into my current team reveal. We'll discuss the deliberations I'm having and those locked players in the team. Okay guys, so here is how my current draft is looking. Now, for reference, just so you know, because I know a lot of teams out there have very, very different squad values. My squad is currently valued at, let me just get it up for you a minute. Apologies, I should have had this up in advance. I am a terrible person. 102.4 million. So, you know, it's not the worst, but it certainly isn't the best squad value. I've made some sacrifices over the previous weeks before the World Cup where I would have lost a lot of value in certain players, and that has been down to my detriment a little bit. But this is how the squad is looking with 1 million in the bank. Now, of course, I see a lot of discussions right now in the community about how template a lot of the things are out there with the teams and why it's so boring. And we kind of had this discussion at the start of pre-season where a lot of people were moaning about all the squads being exactly the same, a lot of highly owned players being selected by everybody, and it's almost making the game a little bit boring. But it's very short-term memory because fast forward, Game Week 4, Game Week 5 or Game Week 6, teams started to separate. Lots of things were happening based on rotation, injuries, and before you knew it, the template team that happened in Game Week 1 started to diverge and FPL become exciting once again. I just want to remind you guys about that. Sometimes when we do these restarts, it can be a little bit boring because the teams, naturally everyone is selecting from the same pool of players, are going to have similar teams. But trust me, over the coming game weeks, maybe not the first one, we will start to see slight changes, managers start to get bored, and the template will start to split. And that is where the opportunities are going to lie. So, just to quickly touch through my team, I have Kepa in goal. I've gone for the Kepa and Ward double up, and I can confirm this is going to be one of the locked players in my draft. So, without fail, these two will be locked into my team. Kepa was pictured in training. Pictures were released today, which suggests that he is going to be fit. That doesn't necessarily mean he's going to start, but I think with the combination of Kepa and Ward, it means that even if Kepa doesn't start, which you obviously are going to start him in this combination, worst case scenario, Kepa doesn't play, Ward comes on for a home game against Newcastle, which look, Leicester have been much better defensively recently. We could see another Ward masterclass there, the GOAT of FPL, of course. But I feel like there's too much value in here. 4.5 million for a goalkeeper in, we would argue, a top 6 team in Kepa and Chelsea, obviously. And Ward proving himself to be by far the best backup goalkeeper and an almost no-brainer, really, because he just offers that backup if we were to be in a position where Chelsea or the team that you selected had a really tricky fixture. Right, moving into defence. Cancelo, few people have been deliberating about so far this season. So I'm absolutely parched. I've been deliberating about Cancelo, whether he is worth the money, whether we can go a little bit cheaper, go for a Man City defender in terms of centre-backs, or go for Kyle Walker at 4.8 million. I absolutely agree that there are probably going to be better value picks in the Man City defence when they are on the field. But selecting when they're on the field is the hardest part here. With Cancelo, I think we know that 90% of the games he is going to be featuring in. Whereas the centre-backs, I could not tell you each and every game week which one. Stones, Akanji, Diaz, Laporte and Ake. 5 excellent centre-backs that Pep could change at any point, any week. Especially when they have, for example, three games in a week. We can easily see rotation there. And that's why I don't think it is worthwhile going for one of these centre-backs. In Kyle Walker, I do think that this is going to be a pick that will be regrettable long term, but I think it could pay dividends in the short term. I expect Kyle Walker to start going into game week 17 and beyond, but I think it is going to be a classic case of Kyle Walker will tick along very nicely, 6 pointers once Man City finally establish a centre-back pairing. But we know with Cancelo that he is the one that is going to accumulate those bigger hauls. And after time, those 7, 8, 9 pointers that Cancelo gets against Walker's 6 slowly start to see him creep further and further up the leaderboard. And of course, yes, there is probably going to be not enough value in Cancelo to justify it, but I think we're here for the hauls in the short term. And I think with these fixtures coming up for Cancelo, he is absolutely worth the money in that Man City defence. Trippier, he's locked into my team. Had him at the start of the season, then I got rid of him, brought him back in. A central pick. The fixtures coming up for Newcastle are mixed, it is worth noting, but Leicester, Leeds, Arsenal, Fulham, Palace, West Ham. Newcastle have been one of the best defensive teams in the league, and Trippier has been an unbelievable bonus point magnet. Basically, if Newcastle keep a clean sheet, he is getting a 7 or 8 pointer. You chuck in an attacking return on top of that, then we're looking at double point returns. Now, of course, the attacking returns to Trippier have been few and far between, to say the least. 4 assists and 1 goal. I think we probably would have anticipated more, even though that is a very, very decent return. I think there's still plenty in the locker for Trippier. And remember, game week 14, an 11-point haul. Game week 15, a 12-point haul. And then a 7-pointer against Chelsea. So he's doing it against the big teams. He's doing it against all teams, basically. And at 65% ownership, I think it would be foolish to go without Trippier in your teams. So he is locked in. The next one, Reece James, another one that's locked into my teams. Few people are worried about his fitness status. I understand that, but he has been pictured in training. Played an hour in the behind doors game against Brentford. I think this is one of the highest ceiling picks that you could go for in FPL value. At 5.8 million, this guy could explode at any point with his fixtures coming up, with Bournemouth at home, followed by, just to remind myself, Nottingham Forest, then a double in game week 18, which is massive. Palace at home, Liverpool, Fulham. I think it is too good value to ignore Reece James. I think when he is fit, he will play every game for Chelsea as long as his body holds up. Unbelievable value. And the 2 in defence, Ben White, not necessarily for the short term, but I want him longer term when Arsenal's fixtures turn. And I think Arsenal, with the underlying stats that they've suggested defensively, can get a clean sheet against anybody. And Bueno at 3.9 million. New manager at Wolves, although he did play the last game for Wolves and the previous 6. Played in the friendly, played as a wing-back, and with Wolves' fixtures coming up, mixed as they are, I still think there is potential for clean sheets here for Wolves. Everton, Man United, Villa, West Ham, City, Liverpool. Look, there isn't going to be much there, but I do think with a new manager, they are going to be a bit more stable in the back. And I think there's going to be potential for Bueno just to be that obvious 5th defender that you sometimes need to sub in if there is rotation issues in your team. And the reason why I like Bueno as well is I've built a draft with Dallo as a replacement for Bueno, or even someone like Castagne. And what I find myself doing is getting into a situation where I can't bring myself to bench any of these defenders. And when that sort of situation arises, we get into a position where we think, are we really making the full use of our money? Or can we sacrifice that 5th defender that is hardly ever going to play to then down to the cheapest, to then free up funds elsewhere for your squad? And I'm currently of that mindset myself. Okay, moving into midfield. Martinelli had him at 6 million. I think he's an absolute lock right now. Arsenal's attack, even with Gabriel Jesus, I'm anticipating to be very good. So I'm more than happy to have Martinelli. Rashford, no-brainer right now with what's going on with him. Looking confident once again. I think Man United are showing signs of an early Arteta team where they're starting to get that philosophy a little bit. They're starting to show signs of a team that can be consistent. I still expect there to be dark times for Man United, but I think with Rashford and his ability and his price point is 6.7 million, I think there's real potential here for him to have some decent hauls. And what better fixture to start off with Nottingham Forest at home? Almiron. This guy's killed me. I haven't owned him all season, and he's been returning week in, week out. Do I anticipate it to continue? No. Will it damage my rank if I don't go without him and he goes big? Yes. And that's the reason why he's currently in my team. But he's the first one, alongside Bueno, that isn't locked into my draft. This one's still up for debate. Similar to Mo Salah. We're going to come on to a premium comparison in a minute. But Salah versus KDB feels like a really, really decisive moment for a lot of managers. I like Salah because of his penalties, of course, being rested fully over the World Cup period. Definitely worse fixtures, it is worth noting, we compare against Kevin De Bruyne, but again, we'll come on to that. But right now, I'm leaning towards Salah as my pick. I just think he has that real explosive ceiling that Kevin De Bruyne might not necessarily have. And the last midfielder, Andreas Pereira, absolutely locked into my team. Had him at the start, guaranteed minutes. A double game week in game week 19, I believe. Sorry, game week 18. Set pieces, an obvious choice for a lot of managers. Moving into the front three. Haaland. I'm still debating Haaland. No, of course I'm not debating Haaland. Haaland locked into my team, of course, with the captaincy. Darwin is one that has now become locked into my team. I do not see myself going without him. His underlying stats are fantastic. Feels like Liverpool funneling everything through him. And as long as those stats remain, I'm happy to get in on board with Darwin, even if we don't see early returns from him. And last up, Mitrovic. Now, a lot of people jumping in on Mitrovic, and I absolutely understand why. A fantastic pick and a double game week in 18. A brilliant pick. However, 4 yellow cards, 1 yellow card away from a 1-game ban. With his fixtures coming up, Palace away, who don't have Mark Guy, is worth noting, so it's a good fixture for him. Southampton at home, new manager, we don't really know what to anticipate there. Then the double in game week 18, away against Leicester and home against Chelsea, followed by Newcastle, Spurs and Chelsea. Mitrovic has proved he can score against anybody with his returns so far this season. But I'm starting to question whether that yellow card could be really impactful if he does get that 5th one. Suspension against the likes of Southampton, Leicester or Chelsea start to make me think, is he worthwhile when we have someone like Martial, who is the same price as him, playing in a better team, I would argue a more explosive asset. Yes, he doesn't have a double game week, but with Forest, Wolves and Bournemouth, Martial could be the one to go for. So those two are my other debate as well. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys. I'm going to jump back into the comments in a minute because I appreciate that I have not ignored them. I've just had to jump into my own sections a little bit. But let me know your thoughts on the team, guys. Then we're going to dive into some player comparisons. Mads, hope you're doing well. Good evening. Considering going with a 3-5-2, Darwin and Haaland on top. 4-2-3 attacker. KDB, Foden. 4-2-3 attacker, I don't really get. I do apologise. KDB, Foden, Rashford, Almer, and Martinelli. I really like the team. Really like the team. But obviously then you're going for, as we mentioned, triple Man City, which I'm not against at all. KDB, Foden. I feel like KDB, Foden and Haaland is probably a little bit too much for me. I would much rather have Salah, Foden and Haaland in my team and have the Foden Haaland double up personally. That would be my thoughts there. But I like the formation that you're suggesting. Real, I have Darwin and Haaland and double Chelsea defence with Kepa and James. Not sure to go with Mount or Havertz. Mount is just back in trade day. Yes, so I personally can't sit here and be confident about that Chelsea attack right now. I don't know who Potter is going to pick. We don't really know the status of Mount right now, and we don't really know the position that Havertz is going to take up. There's no denying that Chelsea assets are brilliant picks with the fixtures that they have, but we don't know what that front three is going to look like, how that midfield is going to look like, if he's going to play wing backs, is he going to play traditional fullbacks? We really don't know the dynamics of Chelsea, and because of that, I'm happy to avoid Chelsea attacking assets. But I do agree that if there are going to be a team that hits the ground running and gets really, really big FPL returns, I think it is going to be in the Chelsea camp. I would agree with that. Cheekster, ever present. Hope you are doing well, buddy. Great to be back and good to see you in the chat. Lipok saying, good evening, Nacho. Hope you're doing well. Calm, double game week is 19. Thank you for that, Calm. And it's worth noting as well, the double game weeks are going to be in game week 18 for Chelsea, who play City and Fulham. And in game week 18, Fulham play Leicester and Chelsea. In game week 19, we have a double game week, and that is going to consist of City versus United and Spurs, and Spurs against Arsenal and City. Now, while we are touching on double game weeks, there is a chance that we are going to get a double game week in game week 21. And that could potentially involve teams like Brighton, Palace, Arsenal, Everton, Bournemouth. So there's a lot of talk about potentially Brighton having a double game week in 21 if things fall their way. So just be wary, guys, what happens in the Liverpool-Man City game tonight, where that could impact potential future double game weeks. I highly recommend following our YouTube channel. Of course, we will update you. Also, Ben Krellin is a good example on Twitter as well that I worthwhile checking out as well. But it does mean that Brighton assets potentially become viable for us in our drafts for a longer-term strategy thinking. Mads, okay, he's saying a 4.2 million. Yeah, so 4.2 million attacker. If you're going for that route, then of course you are going to be looking for, apologies, just double checking before I say in regards to Leeds. Yeah, so as we mentioned, Greenwood at 4.2 million is your obvious pick in the attacking department. I think he will get some game time. And then I like the combination that you're saying about Haaland plus Darwin Núñez. Com saying, if Mitrovic picks up a yellow against Southampton in game week 18, then he only has one game in the double game week 19. And yeah, Com, this is exactly the issue right now with Mitrovic, is if he was to pick up a yellow card, that double game week becomes irrelevant. And then we are looking at the potential of him simply having Chelsea at home, which isn't really ideal. And then he comes into Newcastle, Spurs and Chelsea. So it's in a debate right now where I'm really struggling whether to go for Mitrovic or Martial, because yes, there is the argument that Martial's body is made of glass and he's just going to get injured 100%. But then, is a yellow card waiting in the wings for Mitrovic not as much of a risk as Martial getting injured? And that's where I'm currently thinking right now. If I said to you, and it's just ifs and buts, Martial was to pick up a yellow card in game week 18 and he was to miss the first game of his double, Fulham are then going to have Palace, Southampton and Chelsea. Whereas United are going to have Forest, Wolves and Bournemouth. And when you look at it that way, it really does look tempting to go for Martial as a bit of a punt, especially for someone like me who is 500,000 rank, need that slight differential that I feel could be not outrageous, but could offer some upside. And I feel like Martial falls into that camp right now. So it'd be really interesting to know what you guys think in the chat, whether you are Team Mitrovic or Team Martial. So make sure you do take a screenshot of the team I've got on the screen if you want to. Obviously, if I'm 500,000 rank, you might not want to, but keep an eye on that one. But while we're discussing Martial, I think this would be a really handy graphic for us to check out. Okay, and that is going to be what I covered on our most recent video looking at differentials. So make sure you check out that video in a bit more detail if you want to. We also discussed top transfers again week 17 and also FPL Phillips done the algorithm 11. I really recommend checking that out as well. And of course, as I said about the algorithm 11 and all those side of things, you can check all that out with the Premium Plus free trial up between now and game week's 21 deadline. Make sure you do check it out on that one. I highly recommend it. So these are just the underlying stats of Martial here. Now it's worth noting, although Martial's played 5 games, he's only played 200 minutes of league football, which is absolutely ridiculous. And the reason why we need to take all of these underlying stats with a pinch of salt, very much when we are looking at a player that has played such limited minutes, there could be so many different variables when we look at his stats. For example, yes, we are looking at per 90 minutes, so we get a bit more of an accurate representation. But what's to say Martial didn't come off the bench in a game that was dead and buried, and game state meant that he could just run around, get plenty of touches in the box. So very difficult for us to come to any concrete conclusion with Martial based on such little minutes. But with the underlying stats that we do have, it's unbelievable reading. XG per 90, 0.87, one of the best of all forwards. But again, we are comparing him against forwards that have played considerably more minutes. Big chances per 90, 1.79. Again, some of the best stats of any forward. I think only Bamford and Haaland are better in that department. And again, expected FPL points per 90 of 8.12. Really, really solid reading as well for someone of Martial. Now, he played last night against Burnley. Managed about an hour, I believe, which is really positive reading. Had a decent game, although he didn't get any attacking returns. And I think that's a really promising sign for game week 17. Getting those minutes in the tank, not being overused in that game in preparation for game week 17. And because he came through that game unscathed, I think there are going to be more managers tempted to go for his explosive underlying stats that are probably going to be tempting to those that are ranked in worse positions. And again, I've covered the fixtures. You can see them on screen there. Now, it's worth noting the projected points for the next 4 game weeks are only 7.4. But again, you need to take that with a pinch of salt because our algorithm right now is in a position where it's currently anticipating Martial coming off the back of an injury. So we don't know about the expected minutes. And of course, with projected points, it takes into account expected minutes, fixtures. Now, if we were to put into the algorithm that Martial was going to play 90 minutes over these 4 fixtures in each game, then the projected points are going to soar right up. So I don't think we need to take this stat seriously. I think this will definitely change when we approach game week 18, when we get a bit more of an understanding on Martial's overall fitness. But let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys, on Martial. He is really a deliberation for me whether to go for Martial or Mitrovic. And I feel myself each and every hour getting closer to Martial as my choice at that price range. So, covered off Martial, guys. I think the big debate as well is going to be what we do with our premium slots. So I've got a brilliant graphic that I think you definitely will appreciate checking out. So let's get to that now. And while you are checking this graphic out, I am going to have some quality H2O water because I'm so dehydrated. And again, guys, let me know in the chat what your thoughts are and obviously where you are tuning in from as well. It's always great to know where you're tuning in from in the world. I hope you're all, hopefully you finished work for Christmas, but I know a lot of people out there are still working, which is obviously sad this time of the year, but hopefully you get a few days off over Christmas. It'll be awesome. Enjoy yourself, let your hair down. So let me know in the chat where you're tuning in from. So guys, premium comparison here. Salah versus KDB. And Darwin versus Harry Kane. I feel like this is kind of the deliberation that a lot of managers are having right now. So, apologies before we get into that. Steve Sedman saying Martial looked good last night, and I absolutely agree with you. I think he looked good, and the signs that made me think that it wasn't a bad thing he came off at 60. It was almost like the game's done. Time to rest you up and get you prepared for game week 17, which is really good reading for people that are looking to bring in another Man United option in there. So, Bob, best wishes from New Zealand. That's awesome. FPL Popo from Switzerland. Have you heard Swaziland? I don't know if that's a spelling mistake for Switzerland or not. Let me know. Let me know. But if it's Swaziland, I've absolutely not heard of that, if that's true. So, that's cool. Right. Premium comparison. Let's take a look at that. Right. I think a lot of people right now are absolutely pulling their hair out over Salah versus Kevin De Bruyne. One that I am as well. And if you aren't, let me know in the chat right now who you are going for. It'd be awesome to know. I would love to have peace and clarity on which one is the best option. But I think both are really, really offering different pros and cons. Choco Cookies tune in from South Africa. That's awesome to see as well. So let's take a look at the underlying stats firstly for Salah and Kevin De Bruyne. Now, you can see that the stats here are taken per 90 minutes. So make sure you do take that into account when we are looking at the stats. So Salah in green there you can see is beaten KDB for expected FPL points. But again, there's so little in that one there. And expected goals. And this is the big one here and where the narrative is going to be much more in Salah's favour. Expected goals per 90, 0.58, which is monstrous in comparison to Kevin De Bruyne's 0.19. Now, just to remind you in regards to the goal scoring of Mo Salah and Kevin De Bruyne so far this season. 6 goals for Salah, 4 assists. And when we are looking at Kevin De Bruyne, we are looking at a player that has had 10 assists and 3 goals. So, of course, De Bruyne has been the better performer in terms of FPL points so far this season. But when it comes to goal scoring, it definitely is Mo Salah that is the more favourable choice if you are looking for an asset in that department. Now, again, we need to consider underlying stats alongside output. Although Salah has only scored 6 goals, his underlying stats and expected goals per 90 are really promising reading, which suggests to me that there's definitely more potential for him to deliver over the coming game weeks. Now, when we're looking at KDB, we're not necessarily looking at a goal scorer based on underlying stats. We are more looking at someone who is a chance creator. Of course, with someone like Haaland into the team, it's a bit more funneled for Haaland to be scoring the goals alongside Foden and De Bruyne to do what he does best in creating the chances and finding them from inside right channels also picking up the ball on that touchline, as we know, and cutting it back across the goal line. Like, if you know the goal I'm talking about, then you know they score a lot of those ones. Expected assists per 90, 0.5 per 90, which is kind of like a flip of Salah in his expected goals department. So Salah dominating KDB in expected goals, but De Bruyne dominating Salah in the expected assist department. So we're very much looking at Salah, the goal scorer, versus Kevin De Bruyne, the chance creator. Now, it's worth noting, there's a few question marks about the positioning of both of these players. Kevin De Bruyne we've seen operated in the middle three. We've also seen him operate as a bit more of a 10, progressing forward and pressing with Haaland in certain situations. So very much a situation where we don't know exactly what position Kevin De Bruyne is going to play, whether he's going to operate as a bit more of a chance creator on the right-hand side of a midfield three, as I said, or pressing forward with Haaland being basically the second forward in that press. I can't really offer too much information now on what one he's going to adopt when we go into these set of fixtures. Hopefully the more attacking box player than the creator in those middle third areas. Salah, on the other hand, the exact same situation. We don't know whether we're going to get a front two for Liverpool of Salah and Darwin Núñez, or a front three with Salah operating on the right of a front three. We really don't know what we're getting here. And because of that, I do feel like Mo Salah is the one to sway towards if we are just looking at underlying stats and FPL potential over the coming game weeks on that basis. Now we need to remember... wow, I went down the wrong way. We need to... I promise there's no alcohol in that. It's just coffee. Woo! Right. We need to remember this. Salah on penalties is massive when we are looking at an FPL option. Absolutely massive. So it is worth noting that. I think that's a big pulling factor. But what's massive with KDB, and you can see it on the screens, bonus per 90, 1.03 compared to Salah's 0.58. So as I discussed previously on Trippier, if Newcastle keep a clean sheet, you are looking at 7, 8, 9 pointer. With Kevin De Bruyne, if he just picks up an assist, whereas a lot of players would just get a 5 pointer if they were to concede, you are now looking at a 7 or 8 point return. And based on that, that is a massive swing when we are comparing midfielders. So I just want you to make sure you take that into account, how bonus points can really impact a player's returns over that period. So let's look at the projections going forward. Fixtures, City are by far the best in terms of fixtures. They have the double in game week 19. Apologies, game week 20. And they have Leeds and Everton in the first two. Chelsea away, yes, a tricky one. Double in 20, followed by Wolves and Spurs. So look, when we actually break it down, they have Chelsea, Man United, Spurs, Wolves, Tottenham. That is a tough run, even for someone like Man City. But because they have the double in 20, and we know with FPL how the breakdown happens, it makes it very much more tempting to go for Kevin De Bruyne as an option. On the flip side, Liverpool don't have a double game week. They have Villa, Leicester, Brentford, Brighton, Chelsea and Wolves. So I would argue a tricky run as well. Plenty of away games, it is worth noting. Only 2 home games in their opening 6 fixtures, which I really think is something to consider. And you can see that in the next 5 predicted. Because of that double game week for Kevin De Bruyne, his projections are through the roof at 37.1 projected points compared to Mo Salah's 25. So I feel like I've been talking a little bit here and I've come to no sort of conclusion, which is why I kind of hoped I would do this section. So look, let's try and condense this into a little bit of a decision here. Salah is going to be the goal scorer, I think, based on the underlying stats that we're suggesting. Penalties as well, a monstrous factor that we do need to consider, because a penalty in a game where Salah and both Liverpool are playing poorly is absolute gold dust. It is worth noting. Haaland is going to just take everything away from Kevin De Bruyne. But Kevin De Bruyne, fixtures-wise, is much better. Can he get into goal-scoring positions? If he does, then he enhances himself and is by far the better choice over Mo Salah. I think personally, firstly, if you can get a squad with your team value of a combination of Salah, Foden, Haaland, you have to do it. I think that is an ultimate combination. The reason I haven't got it is because I still want Martinelli and Rashford, and I can't get that combination right to justify going for Foden, Salah, and Haaland. If you are going for Haaland, I personally right now am tempted to go for Mo Salah. I don't know whether I'm going to regret that suggestion there, because I'm looking at the fixtures in front of me for Man City and I see really, really good fixtures. But I just think for Mo Salah right now, rested across the whole World Cup, Liverpool with returning players, firstly in defence, which I think will help them in the attack, not being basketball games and kind of just not know what kind of Liverpool team's going to turn up. I think it's going to help them actually in the attacking departments. And remember, if Salah does get deployed as a forward alongside Darwin Núñez, we're looking at a completely different beast. And based on that, I think Salah is going to be my suggestion here. But again, I really don't think there is a bad choice here between the two. So guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments. I can tell I've gone in circles there, but I think I've come to a conclusion that Salah is still the one for me. And again, if you want to jump on that double game week, you could do Mo Salah for the first 3 and then move yourself to Kevin De Bruyne in game week 20. And it's worth noting, when we get into these situations where we have unlimited transfers and we're building our teams, I would not be surprised if we get in a position where we don't want to make any transfers to our team. So there's a real possibility that we're going to get to game week 20 and have 2 free transfers available to us because you have rolled transfers. And because of that, I do think that doing Salah for the first 3 and then maybe jumping to Kevin De Bruyne for the double game week and beyond is a strategy that is worth considering going forward. Rio, I'm joining your stream from Canada. I wish I was in Canada. That'd be awesome to travel to there. Something I've definitely got on my list. Currently to go with KDB, but we'll watch the match 30 minutes later. Yeah, guys, obviously right now I'm making this discussion, but we have got a game in 20 minutes between Liverpool and Man City. So this could make this all redundant. So I am very excited to check that game out. Steve, I'm sticking with Salah because I want to pivot to Alvarez soon. Have Haaland and Cancelo already, obviously. Alvarez isn't exciting me as much as others, but I do understand off the back of that World Cup. I just think you are probably buying a player that is going to be in and out of the team quite consistently, or second fiddle to Haaland still. Chinese, I'm going for both KDB and Salah. Cheers from Nigeria, Nacho. Hope you're doing well. Awesome for you to be tuning in. KDB and Salah, I have not seen any strategies like that, but I really do like people going off slightly different. Steve, let's see how get integrated into squad following World Cup at 6 million. He is a bargain. Yeah, in terms of Alvarez, yes, I agree on that one. For me, that'll be a wait and see. Right. Darwin versus Harry Kane. Now, it's worth noting, I haven't actually checked out, really poor of me, the lineups for Man City Liverpool, which is awful. So let me just quickly get them in front of me here. I believe this is the correct one. Let me know if I'm wrong, guys. So notable players that are playing: Ake at left back, Laporte at centre back with Kanji. De Bruyne is starting alongside Rodri and Gundogan. Mahrez, Haaland and Cole Palmer in a front 3, it looks like. In Liverpool's team, Robertson, no Trent, a midfield 3 of Thiago, Harvey Elliott, and a front 3, of Carvalho, Darwin Núñez, and Salah. Interested to know if that is a 4-4-2 or a 4-3-3, but it's great to see both De Bruyne and Salah playing. Hopefully, we're going to get a little bit of an idea on the fitness, the status of these players going forward. So, yeah, really looking forward to that game there. Right, guys, Darwin Núñez versus Harry Kane. Big deliberation right now. Now, of course, slightly different prices, which is worth noting. 9 million for Darwin, 11.6 for Harry Kane. So we're not necessarily looking at a like-for-like replacement in your team. You would have to change the structure of your team there. But I know a lot of managers out there have been going for a Haaland-Kane double up front and making sacrifices elsewhere in their team, which I absolutely understand. And just to remind you of the fixtures coming up for Spurs, because I don't think they've been as much in the limelight. Spurs have Brentford, Villa, Palace, a double with Arsenal versus City, Arsenal and City, and then Fulham and then Man City once again. So I would argue that's quite a mixed bag of fixtures for Spurs. But with Harry Kane, we know that we are getting a player that if Spurs do well, Harry Kane does well. Now, looking at the underlying stats here, we all know that Darwin Núñez has been an absolute monster when it comes to underlying stats. Expected goals per 90, 0.79. Kane's is awesome as well at 0.66, but Darwin Núñez pipping him there. An expected assist is also in Darwin Núñez's favour, which might come as a surprise to others. 0.38 compared to Harry Kane's 0.2. But what Kane, similar to what Kevin De Bruyne does, is the bonus point department. Bonus per 90, 1.41 is ridiculous. We're looking at a player here that gets a goal, top bonus, or 2 bonus at least. Darwin, on the other hand, because he misses a lot of opportunities, etc., isn't as much in the bonus point department, but still, 0.89 per 90. Do not kind of think that's bad. That is still really, really good viewing for Darwin Núñez. Now, as I mentioned, fixtures for both are mixed, I would argue. Liverpool don't have the benefit of a double game week. And you can see predicted points for game week 17 is in Harry Kane's favour. And especially over the next 5 game weeks, 30 points for Kane compared to Darwin Núñez's 17. Does that justify the additional 2.6 million for Kane versus Darwin? I personally don't think so. I still think Darwin Núñez is not an essential, but quite an obvious choice for your team. You're getting ownership in a player who is playing a Liverpool team that are still one of the top sides in the league. And you can see when he does feature in the team, everything funnels through him. Big chances, expected goals, all those sort of things is exactly what we want to see for a forward. And we always want to go for those greedy forwards as well. Although it might be frustrating to watch, it's what you want from an FPL option. And that's exactly what Darwin Núñez offers. Now, of course, similar once again, you don't have that penalty bonus for Darwin Núñez, which is really worth considering, which Harry Kane does. But I still think Darwin Núñez is the value pick. Doesn't mean he's a better pick, but I think he's the value pick in FPL because he at 9 million, with that 2.6 million available, you can upgrade other departments in your team, which I think is going to benefit you more longer term than going for Kane without Darwin Núñez. But let me know your thoughts in the chat, guys. Be awesome to know which one you are preferring between Harry Kane and Darwin Núñez. Steve said in the chat, pains me to say, as a Spurs fan, Darwin gets enough for me because of team structure. Had to get Kulo in the 8 million slot. Steve, yes, Kulusevski is someone that is definitely on my radar. I would love to be able to squeeze him into the team. So I do think Spurs with Kulusevski are a completely different beast. We saw that in the absence of Kulusevski in the team. Really struggled to create anything. Kane being so heavily reliant to be that creator alongside goal scorer. With Kulusevski, and it's worth noting, Son has been really poor for Spurs so far this season. Kulusevski's been the one who's almost dragged them through games at time to time and just offers that cutting edge that the others don't have in that Spurs team. And again, with Kulusevski, while you're not getting a goal scorer, you're definitely getting a chance creator and somebody who is really good in the bonus point department as well. With Kulusevski, I would compare him to like a Kevin De Bruyne, where you're going to get the expected assists, the big chances created, but you're not necessarily going to get the goal scoring from him when you are looking at FPL returns. So guys, that is a premium comparison there. Hopefully that helped you out. Last up, we're going to come to the projected points department over the coming game weeks. I just timed that drink so badly, it was just silence for you guys. Apologies. Right. Projected points between game weeks 17 and 21. So, of course, this incorporates the bonus points. This incorporates the double game weeks that we know of so far. So, it's really good viewing for us to get an idea on how players with double game weeks obviously are going to dominate the projected points. And rightly so as well, because double game weeks, even though they might be tricky for some teams, still give you the opportunity for 180 minutes for certain players compared to only 90 for others. And that's why I always think it is massive. Goalkeepers, no surprise, Edison top of the tree at 24.2 because of that double game week that he does have. But Leno surprisingly coming out quite strong at 4.9 million. I think the big thing right now though for Leno is 4.9 million. You just cannot justify that when you have someone like Kepa with a double game week as well. Offering so much value in clearly a much better Premier League team. Worth noting, Kepa isn't on the projected points here, but it's because of his expected minutes, both rotation and injury risk, obviously coming off the back of an injury. So because of that, just take that with a pinch of salt. I would expect Kepa to be in those top 5 projected points if we were to get clarification that he was to get guaranteed game time over the next 5 game weeks. So you can read that on the screen there, guys. I want to just pick up a few here, Cancelo, again, the only Man City player to appear in those projected points in the top 5. And I think rightly so as well, and justifying why he's worth paying the additional over the other Man City options. You can see there 4 points clear of someone of Thiago Silva. And with fixtures being 3 games in a week, that kind of rules out Thiago Silva as an option at 5.4 million. We need to remember that Reece James is 5.8 million, so only 0.4 million, and you're getting somebody that is so much more of a goal scorer, chance creator, and I would even argue expected minutes over Thiago Silva. So while he is good in our projected points, I cannot recommend Thiago Silva as an option right now, especially off the back of a World Cup. I don't know whether he is going to get his minutes managed and only prioritise in the bigger games over that period. So for example, Chelsea have got Bournemouth, Forest, City, Fulham. You wouldn't be surprised necessarily to see, and I'm just going to get the games that they actually have in terms of, so Chelsea play on a Tuesday, then they play on a Sunday, and then they play on a Thursday, followed by obviously the break afterwards. So Thiago Silva could easily play all those fixtures, but wouldn't be surprised if they prioritise the Man City game and maybe give him a rest here and there. But look, he is, of course, Chelsea's best defender in terms of that centre-back department, and Chelsea need results. Trippier still coming up strong, and another reason, and just kind of confirmation bias why we need him in our teams at 5.9 million. Midfielders, Kevin De Bruyne coming out strong over Mo Salah, but again, we need to remember that he does have an additional game over this period because of that double game week. Salah still looking good at 25 projected points. Now, Maddison's sneaking in there, and somebody that I don't think has had a lot of love, mainly because probably the World Cup and not getting minutes, maybe that's had a detriment to him because we kind of forgot how good he has been so far this season. Based in terms of actual returns for all midfielders, he's currently top 8, I believe, 7th, with 77 points, which is super consistent. 7 goals, 4 assists, and he's been scoring against big teams as well. So I don't think necessarily the fixtures are things we need to worry about with him. Just to remind ourselves, Newcastle and Liverpool to open the start, and that's probably the reason why there hasn't been a big investment or a community moving towards him. That's opening start when you could get someone like Mason Mount at the exact same price with much better fixtures. I understand why people aren't going for James Maddison, but after that, Fulham, Forest, Brighton, Villa, really, really strong fixtures. So you could potentially look for him in game week 19, but I don't think he's a game week 17 option for our squads. Son can't justify him right now, which is crazy because, of course, he has been one of the best FPL assets for many years now. But Son currently priced at 11.6. You're choosing Son over Salah or Kevin De Bruyne, and because of that, I can't make a point for Son. And in the forwards, Haaland just destroying everybody as we expected. The big question mark for Haaland is going to be, do we triple captain him in game week 20? Of course, when they had the double. Fixtures-wise, it isn't the best. United away and Spurs at home. But there is a potential that this could be the last double game week for Man City, depending on how results go for them in the cup competitions. So it's going to be very interesting once double game week 20 arrives. We might have some more information about the future of Man City's fixtures. And if that is the last double game week for City and the last chance to triple captain Haaland in a double, I'll be very interested to know whether managers think, you know what, forget the fixtures, it's a double, it's Haaland, let's go all in on a triple captain. So I'm really interested to know the thoughts on people there for a triple captain on Haaland in double game week 20. Steve saying, is Thiago a good option for James if you are looking for money? So no, if you're looking for a Thiago Silva as a replacement for Reece James, no, I think you pay more, you go for Reece James. I think it's going to be a perfect example if people go for Kyle Walker over Cancelo. You will get those game weeks where absolutely he matches the returns of his expensive counterpart. But it's going to be those games where Reece James gets that goal, gets that assist, and looks at a 10-pointer, and Thiago Silva ticks along with his 6-pointers week in, week out. Yes, consistent performers do well, but I really want those big returners, and at only 0.4 million more, I think Reece James is absolutely worth the additional money over someone like Thiago Silva. Look at the rest of the forwards, guys. Kane, Darwin, Gabriel Jesus needs to be adjusted here because of his injury, and I will make sure that does for future videos, and Callum Wilson at 18.7. projected points. So guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm going to stick around for the next 5 minutes to answer any questions that you do have. So it'd be awesome to let me know anything that's on your mind, guys. We won't be doing a stream between now and the deadline, game week 17. So this is the last live stream before then, but we will be doing a live stream in game week 18 deadline. We will be doing a stream then, and we'll also be doing a stream for game week 19 as well, fingers crossed. So that'll be awesome. But this is going to be the last live stream between now and the game week 17 deadline. So if you have any questions, guys, make sure to drop them in the chat and I'll answer them over the next 5 minutes. That'll be awesome. But make a mental note of this here. Obviously, just rewind it, guys, and check out the projected points. I'm just going to put back up my current team reveal for people to check out, just so you have a bit of an idea if you are new to the stream where I am looking at. For those that are new, didn't see the team before, players that are locked into my team is going to be the double up in defense. Apologies. Double up in goalkeeper of Kepa and Ward. I think that is the best combination. Oh, Steve saying wasn't the answer I wanted, but thanks. No worries at all, Steve. That's always the case, isn't it? Defense. Players that are locked in for me. James, Trippier, Cancelo. Ben White is 90% locked into my team. Bruyne is the alternative for someone like a Patterson or a Castagne, depending on the money available. Midfield. Martinelli, Rashford locked into my team alongside Andreas Pereira. Almiron's still a question mark right now. I don't know whether I'm buying him based on fear that he continues his run. And based on my 500,000 rank, I don't want to get punished once again by him. And Salah, just because Salah versus KDB is going to be something I think goes right down to the wire for me in terms of a decision. But based on the premium comparison that I've done earlier, I do think Salah is slightly edging it for me over Kevin De Bruyne. And the front three, Haaland absolutely locked in. Darwin Núñez locked in. Again, could be something that happens in tonight's game that could change things. And Mitrovic is the big recent discussion that I need to have with myself. Is Mitrovic the choice, or is Martial of Man United the better option? The more and more I discuss it, the more I get tempted by Martial, it is worth noting. But we will decide closer to the time. And again, guys, if you are interested, make sure you are following our socials to keep fully up to date with any team reveals closer to the deadline. Rio saying I'm thinking to go with Walker instead of Cancelo. And look, Rio, I absolutely cannot knock people going for Walker over Cancelo because of the price saving that you are going to get. Now, you're not going to see this on your screens, unfortunately. But what I am going to do is just quickly look at the underlying stats for both Cancelo and Walker. And I'm looking at this on the OptaStats sandbox. And once again, guys, I just want to quickly reiterate here, if you have just jumped onto the live recently, we are bringing you guys a free trial on Premium Plus, which is on Fantasy Football Fix. It's a free trial between now and Game Week 21 deadline. So honestly, guys, you are getting almost the whole of January for a free trial, full access to Fantasy Football Fix. And honestly, until you've actually checked out the Fantasy Football Fix website, you don't really understand how much is available for you. And it's ridiculous. Honestly, all the stats, the Opta stats is a joke in itself and is worthwhile doing if you haven't already had a free trial in the past. But things like the assistant manager, the projected points, captain reveal, honestly, it's ridiculous. There's so much out there. Just want to reiterate it, guys. If you cancel before the Game Week 21 deadline, you will get charged nothing. So it's a free trial up until then. Just worth noting, if you've had a free trial of Fantasy Football Fix in the past, you're not eligible to this. It's only for those that haven't had a free trial in the past of Fantasy Football Fix. And honestly, guys, if you're sat there right now and you haven't had a Fantasy Football Fix free trial in the past, I really recommend doing it. All the link is in the bio. Check it out. If it's something you fancy, get involved, and you can cancel before the Game Week 21 deadline and get charged zero. So I really recommend it, guys. It is really, really worthwhile doing. So look, Walker versus Cancelo. Let's just get this up on, not on screen for you guys, but up on screen for me. And then we can have a little discussion in regards to the two players and kind of what I talk about when I look at Cancelo versus Walker. Now, Walker has had injury, so I'm gonna read these stats based on per 90 minutes, just to get a bit of an idea on how they do operate as an FPL option. So remember, this is per 90 minutes for the both. Now, this is where it gets very, very interesting because some of the arguments start to become very difficult to justify. Expected goals 0.04 for Cancelo, 0.04 for Walker. So we all sit here and say to ourselves, Cancelo is the more attacking, the much better pick. While their expected goals are exactly the same per 90 minutes, which is a little bit worrying reading when sometimes the narrative in FPL is Cancelo is by far the better pick. So really interesting there. And now you're probably sitting there thinking, well, you know, Cancelo, chance creator, creates so much for this Man City team. Expected assists, 0.06 for Cancelo, 0.02 for Walker. So now you're looking at this thinking to yourself, Cancelo isn't creating more than Walker and he's not getting in better goal scoring positions than Walker. So now we're asking ourselves, what is Cancelo doing to justify the 2.8 million more, 2.6 million? Now, expected FPL points is in Cancelo's favour, 5.75 to 4.74 per 90 of Walker. It's really when we look at things like the shots where the real kind of divide happens. 1.2 shots per 90 for Cancelo, 0.16 for Walker. So this is considerable now. Basically, Cancelo's having a shot more per game than Kyle Walker. But of course, looking at the expected goals, they're not necessarily high volume, big chances that he is getting. Now, when we look at the goal threat, again, the shots massively in Cancelo's favour, as we know. But what I want to come to is the actual FPL department here, because this is where sometimes we get a bit of more of a clear idea on which one is better. And when I look at bonus per 90, this is where we start to see why Cancelo slowly creeps away from Walker week in, week out. 0.8 bonus per 90 for Cancelo, 0 bonus per 90 for Walker. So again, it comes down to this. Walker doesn't create anything and he doesn't score anything, but he gets nothing in the bonus department either. So he is basically 6.6.6.6 point. Cancelo, the narrative is that he creates a lot, but realistically the stats suggest that he has shots, but his expected goals and expected assists are basically on par with Walker. The big difference is the bonus. If City keep a clean sheet, we know Cancelo is going to be really in and amongst the bonus points, whereas Walker basically has no chance of being in the bonus. And because of that, you then need to have a decision to yourself. Does that bonus that Cancelo accumulates justify the additional funds alongside the minutes risk of Cancelo that John Stones could step in at right back? For me, based on an eye test, and I think we need to consider eye tests sometimes, I think Cancelo's worth the money. Yes, the stats don't necessarily suggest it, but I do think Cancelo, if anybody's going to then kick on and start really hauling, I just think it's worth having a bit of skin in the game in terms of Cancelo over Walker. Football 2000 saying, hey there, your opinion on Foden instead of Martinelli. Look, I think that Foden is a better choice than Martinelli, but then we need to take into account prices. You're looking at an 8 million asset versus a 6.5 million asset. Foden has the better fixtures and the double. If you can afford it, I think Foden's better. Steve saying, can I go Cancelo to Walker to free up funds? You can, and hopefully that section did help you out there, but you are getting an asset that is basically just a 6-pointer every week. Does the Laporte come into the equation? Steve, I'm going to say no, because I couldn't sit here and tell you whether he actually plays week in, week out. And John saying, in your team, would you consider putting in Edison for Kepa? I think there is a chance, but I just think at 4.5 million, I'd much rather go for that goalkeeper option and free up funds to invest elsewhere in the team. And because of that, Kepa is going to be locked into my team personally. Right, guys, that has been an hour, and I'm going to wrap up the stream here. Thank you so much for tuning into the live stream, guys. It's been awesome to be back and having some regular faces, plus new faces in the chat. Always great to see. So thank you so much for tuning in, guys. As always, if you haven't hit the like button, it'd be awesome if you can, just to leave a like and show the love for the stream. And if you haven't already and you did enjoy the stream, be great if you can hit that subscribe button and get involved on the journey this season. We have so much content coming so far. Done this so far this season and coming this season. That'd be awesome for you guys to be on board and see you in the future videos. Bob saying Foden or Saka. I would go for Foden if I had a choice between the two. Right, guys, we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you so much again. Make sure you check out the Premium Plus free trial. Link in the bio. Cannot miss it, guys. It is a real... Trying to think of the term. I've just cracked, guys. Basically, a massive advantage for you in your mini leagues if you do get involved. Bob, awesome. Thank you, buddy. Have a great Christmas. And guys, that leaves me to say, have an amazing Christmas. This is the last video between now and Christmas. I really hope you guys have a brilliant time with friends, family, whatever you're up to. Just enjoy it. Tune off from FPL for one day and just enjoy being with the loved ones. That is what it's all about over Christmas time. Rio, thanks for your voice, Nacho. Really enjoy stream. Rio, hope you're well. And thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great Christmas. And I will see you guys on Boxing Day onwards. Have a great one, guys. Take care. Cheers.